Thank you everyone for being here today. I am seeing some familiar faces, which calms my butterflies. So even though I've spoken for quite a few times, it's really great to see supportive faces. Thank you very much. You are here to learn about discovery. I only have 20 minutes. So if you want to hear the expanded version, come to Polish Streaming in 2 weeks. So I've got 45 minutes there. I have 20 minutes here. So I'm going to speed through this. So here you go. A little bit about me, right? So since I'm a project manager, I like to tell my story in the form of a Gantt chart. Uh, Graduated last century. I'm much older than I look. Thank you very much. You can see the orange bars. So most of my life, I have worked with consulting partners. So the first part of my career was with Microsoft. So don't boo me. And then the latter part is in the Salesforce arena. So I've worked with partners like IBM in most recently in the Salesforce space, Capgemini. I see from Capgemini there. And in 2020, I started my business called Then How Academy, where I'm training consultants how to run discoveries, leadership, soft skills, those sort of things. So broadly, I've got about 30 years of project delivery. Again, mostly from the consulting side. So everything I talk about will be through those lens. First part, client facing, configurator, business analyst, tester, trainer. Second part, project manager, program manager. I just like telling people what to do. Core part of my identity that I talk about is the fact that for the last 16 years, I've also been a volunteer with a crisis phone line in the UK called Samaritans, where we listen to people who are feeling suicidal and overwhelmed. What I can say though, if I can draw a dotted line there, because when I started my volunteering, I have found that a lot of my projects just got easier because there was a lot less drama, human drama. We can focus on the business and the technology problems that we were trying to solve because I was listening better. I was training my team to listen better to each other and listening better to the client. So, very quickly, this is me. What I do now is I provide discovery masterclasses, which is role play and skills practice live consulting classes for Salesforce partners around the world. Oh, yes. Thank you. Also just released a course called the Consulting Fundamentals, which cover these topics for small to medium-sized partners who don't have onboarding resources. And my husband says I don't promote my books enough. Who's going to keep my daughter supplied with a boba tea, because every book I sell will get her one boba tea. So I've written 2 books. One is Salesforce Discovery 101, and the one that was just before last Christmas is Successful Salesforce Projects 101. So let's look at the modern discovery landscape. And if you're not familiar with discoveries, broadly, this is how it looks like. All kind of discoveries, regardless of what projects it is, even AI. So if you were at the keynote today and with the discussion, they all follow a very similar path. We prepare, research, this interviews, workshop, process mapping, requirements, documentation, and analysis and recommendations. So if you're not familiar, the first step, preparation and research, is basically just gathering background information so we understand the context. If you think about AI, and I've been using it quite a bit, is you have to give context. You need to understand what's happening before we can tell you how to fix whatever problem you tell me you've got, right? So the first part is actually the research. How have we done it conventionally, right? In my head, right, my career is kind of like split down before COVID and after COVID. I don't know why. So basically, before COVID, it was a lot of my discoveries in client interaction has been in person, face to face, manual, stuff like that. So we'd have to do manual research, manual reading of documentation and deliverables or whatever the customer is able to give to me, and creating questionnaires and guidelines. I spend a lot of time on preparation. So before kickoff, I will make sure my team reads our statement of work, reads anything to do with the client, any business SOP, standard operating procedures, any manuals, any documentation that was done by previous partners, whatever. Read, absorb, prepare. Right now, we can get AI to do a lot of that, right? It's so easy because even though COVID kind of happened and then AI is like about 3 years, but still in my head, it is really, really more manual and more automated now with AI that can help you with so many things. Creating questions, for example, based on what we know of this industry and clients. So the next part is the interviews and workshop. What is it? So once we've absorbed already what's there in terms of documentation, this is where we do the face-to-face things and the interviews and the workshops to actually listen from the key users how they're feeling and what their current pain point is. Now the skill actually is not just listening to what they say but what they don't say. So at the moment I don't think AI can pick that up and it's left to us. So that's like one job that won't be taken if you're really good at reading nonverbal. So again, in the manual world, note taking and then summary writing and identifying follow-up questions is something that we'd have to do. So those of us who have gray hair and who have done many one of these sort of workshops will be able to do this very quickly while you're having the workshops. But now, I don't think any of us need to do any note taking for interviews or workshops or calls anymore because there's so many AI tools that can do that. Extraction of key points, generating follow-up questions. I have a lot of slides, so I'm going to spin through. So this very quickly, this could be a prompt that you might use that I have used in the past to say, based on the transcript, please give me all this information, right? And then this is what AI would say. This is an example from a role play that I did. Okay, so these are what the key points are, what the requirements are, because I had this whole donut role play, and then it suggested to me these are some of the follow-up questions. So remember, I do training on role plays and skills practice. This is what I do with my group. We do a lot of role plays, and then they've got to try and figure out what questions to ask and how to diffuse me because I'm a rotten client, actually, right? Some of the things that are still crucial is reading body language and nonverbals, building rapport and trust, and asking impromptu questions. Facilitating group dynamics is really important because that's the human touch. When you see people and you look at their body language, you can tell whether they're open or they're not open to what you're talking about. And as humans, we can moderate how we talk and how we approach things and people so that we get the outcome that we want. The third one, okay, process mapping. This is my favorite thing. I am hugely visual, as you can see, because I believe that when you're able to tell the customer, is this your real process? They can also visually see and say, no, actually it's not. We actually have a handoff over there and you've not identified X, Y, and Z. So process mapping is another element of discovery. So which bit have we had to do in the olden days? Manual process mapping from notes and memory. So I'm somebody who actually draws as somebody's talking. Or I get the customers to put post-it notes, and this is again, another way of doing things, but just holding that for a second. So getting the stakeholders to validate and then redrawing based on feedback. It's time consuming, but I love it. I don't know. I'm just strange that way. Right. So in the AI world, we can automate the first draft of process maps from transcripts. Now, I've managed to do this, or my team's managed to do this using Claude.ai. So I can't go into it here, but come to Polish training in 2 weeks where I'll go through it. This is different from what Elements Cloud. So if anyone know about Elements.cloud, what they do is they have a tool that can go into your org and draw out the process map for you. But that is after the fact. And also the ones before the fact is they assume your business analyst can ask the right questions to produce the process map. Now this one, what I'm focusing on is slightly different. It's the art of asking questions and then getting Claude to actually draw out the process map for you. So we managed to do that quite nicely to the standard that I'm happy with anyway. Identification of decision points and actors, and all of this. This is really great use case for AI. So this was an example of something that I use that you can tweak, right? Based on the transcript, and transcript's messy. And I love it. I love that AI can understand mess, my mess anyway, because I ramble a lot, as you can tell, right? And so the next bit is the documentation. Here is where we translate everything we know, all the questions, all the input into actual documentation. Again, in the past, manual requirements writing, I'm very particular about documentation. So I get my team, especially in the olden days when we did a lot more waterfall business requirements documentation, we would write really big, thick documents that incorporated everything from requirements, functional to technical to integration to data migration, and making sure that it's all there, including your security and sharing models in the past. But in the new world of user stories, then you've got to be more mindful about the different documentation pieces you have to pull together to deliver your solution. So all of this, time consuming, but in the new world, you can get AI to do that. So what I really like about this morning's keynote is that was obviously the use case was different, is reducing a 2-day troubleshooting escalated second line process to 30 minutes or nothing, right? So here is where we can reduce a lot of these manual work with AI. And then finally, right, we put everything together and then we create the solution document that aligns with business vision. What we had to do in the past, manual. And then also this one depends on the team that you have. So I'm always really happy when I have a team where my architect is really seasoned, have a big picture, have a well-architected framework in their brain. That is, okay, currently my sore spot about the disbanding of the team. But this is relying on you having a really good team, because I'm not as technical as I would like to be. I can understand. But if you have someone who's not quite as senior technical that can approach a big wicked problem in the way that it warrants, then that's where I get let down. But with AI now, you have the experience of all the stuff that they've learned to identify. You just need to know how to ask the right questions. Okay. I'm actually on track. That was so fast. Let me take a breath here. Because I had like 44 slides, and you've got to think 44 slides, 20 minutes. That's 2 slides a minute. I think I went through it really quickly. So I'm finishing it very quickly now. Right. The tools and trends, okay? So, number one, you have the tools in your disposal. You can use ChatGPT or Claude. I just found out about Noble LM yesterday. It wasn't something that I have researched before. So in the beginning, when Claude first came out, ChatGPT came out, I looked at my key criteria was data privacy. Because when we are dealing with customer data and I want to feed things in, I need to make sure it doesn't go elsewhere and it doesn't come out of when someone asks a similar question to ChatGPT. So I know when all of this first kind of like became more ubiquitous, I actually looked at what had the strongest data privacy element, and Claude is my tool of choice. So I've tested a few things, and this is what I'm using. Transcription services, I use otter.ai. So again, right in the beginning when everyone was coming on board, I was looking at what kind of transcription tools had strong privacy, and Otter won by miles. Not only that, but it is also pretty accurate. So a small tip, you can also, so what I do at conferences is I actually record on Otter, get it transcribed, because I want to go back and I want to redigest things. Because you get so much great nuggets of information at conferences like this that you're not gonna remember when you go back unless you actually make a conscious decision to review. And that's what I do. So I knock up, Otter, listen. The keynote was amazing, blew me away. I just need to sit down and digest all of that. So transcription tools, you got documentation assistance. It is quite amazing at the different quality of documents that you get from the different apps. Right. Next, these are the traditional skills, those like the before time, that actually still valid in the after time, in the now, in the AI age, in the hybrid virtual age, right? I still feel this is my personal bias that even though we can still do things now, it is not as rich as when you are in person. So think about a conference that you're in when you're talking to someone, you're having a really deep conversation, and then just like have an alternate future where you're having the same conversation but on Zoom or over email or text. You're not going to get that richness of connection, human connection. So I'm always a proponent of in person. Nowadays, if companies can afford to fly everyone to a single spot, do that, because the quality of the solution that you get will be miles better, miles richer than you can get online. Although I do recognize that since we're more distributed now and we've got a wider pool of talent, pros and cons. You can tell my bias here. And then what we need to do in this talk will probably look quite different next year or the year after when the tools progress a lot more, is understanding where you can integrate both the human and the AI side of things. So this is my effort at showing you that nowadays you need both to actually provide a solution that you need. Now, some time ago, I was wrestling with this idea quite a bit about AI and how you've got two camps. You've got people who think AI will solve all your problem, and there's some of us who think, Actually, no, it won't." I needed to try and articulate how I was feeling into one diagram. So this was where I got to. And I thought that I could use this to talk about it with my children and with other people and also with myself. And again, I think it's evolving in how the pyramid and the sections go. But basically, this little person here is like my kids when I'm talking to them, and they think that AI, well, one of them think that, AI is the future, it'll solve everything. Why do I need to know math? Why do I need to, learn about integration and stuff like that? Because AI will answer it all for me. But actually, that is what's missing. And a lot of us get to where we are because we went up the hard way and we've acquired that through blood, sweat, and tears. And it is up to us that says, well, you can't do option B because of these reasons, because I've been there. You can look at, the scars on my, and my fake eyebrows and things like that because I've learned it. So anyway, this was kind of like my throw in because I'm not yet totally on board, but I have to be because AI is the future. So that I'm at this point at the end. So connect with me. This is my link tree. It has all the stuff that I do. It's got 2 free chapters that you can download from my first book, which is Sales Delivery Handover. You have to do it right from a consulting point of view, or the team is not set up for success. Statement of work. How to write statement of work that sets you up for success. One ebook, 15 tips for the new consultants, lots of drawings. It's something that I set up for a group of my friends who were just starting out in the consulting space. So Q&A time. I don't know if we do have any time, but if you go on Menti, you can do that. And also you can ask me questions. And are there any questions for me? I have 50 seconds left. Yes? You can, when the QR code will give you more info, and if you have more questions about my course, you can ping me directly. Otter.ai, OTTER.ai. Thank you. Yeah, sorry. Yes, yes. I had a 30-minute rant on LinkedIn. Anybody goes on my LinkedIn, you can go and look at 30 minutes where I'm talking about this specifically. Are we creating bot builders or bot followers? Right? So this is again something I'm wrestling in my head. If you allow your AI to just tell you what to do, you'll become those people who will not get the value of the new future. If we want the new generation, a generation of future leaders, to actually become like us who have gone through the fires that we've gone through, but maybe in a less painful way, then they've got to be taught to learn how to think and use AI to teach them, not to tell them. So it's a really big question. It's a very macro question that is, I can talk about till the cows come home, but it's not the forum for that. Let's talk later. Yes. Yes. So I have used, like I said, I've used Claude.ai. But what you need to do is actually you need to feed it with the formats and the quality of the documents that you have done before. So I have a lot of documents that I've written so that I'm very particular about how I want it to look like, what it need to go into, and how to categorize and dissect things. So that is like kind of like my thing. So organizationally, I guess if you have a data governance and an AI policy to manage how you're using it, I think that that's a really good way of doing it, which will help the younger people understand this is how you write a solution document. This is what integration document needs to be, and you're missing all of this because of these reasons. So you're teaching it. Okay. I am zero time. Thank you very much for being here.